we are Team Ithaca. And it's a long time since I've seen this presentation, so we'll just go with it because we'll just cuff it. So we had a plan. So the plan came together when I got a call. Well, there was an email came to the club saying, we're looking for somebody to be a skipper. And I went, well, I can't be a skipper, but I can row. And I emailed or messaged Sandra, and Sandra said, so hang on a minute, we'll get back to you. So I had to wait. And then I got a phone call going, do you want to come for an interview? I didn't really realise it was an interview. I thought I was in already, but anyway, it turns out it was an interview, and I passed. So that's how I ended up with us lot. After we get did you get interviewed too?
I did.
Yeah.
Straight after you.
It was a good day for your interviews. And then we had a different skipper, and we changed our skipper, and then we ended up with Emma. So the team. So we had a team, we had a boat, we had a plan, we had to do lots of stuff, and then we ended up rowing. So this was us. We borrowed the slipway here one day to come and get some atmospheric pictures, moody pictures, and to launch our social media and try and get sponsorship, which was and continues to be probably the hardest thing to do.
We only took 2 starboard oars there. I don't know if you can see, it's upside down. That really annoyed me. But
So the first thing we did was a bit of boat familiarisation, and that's the first time we met the skipper, who came to chat to us about the year before, and we assessed whether we thought she'd fit in. What was quite funny is I went to the toilet, got chased by Amy, going, what do you think, what do you think? And I went, kind of think she's in the team already. Oh, good. So we did some training, and it was really weird just a few weeks ago seeing Sea Change do the same training and it being on social media, and I kind of felt a bit sad. So we met everybody, we did a bit of trialling, we put on some clothes, and we had pictures taken in this September, I think it must have been. And then we were given our tasks. We were given many tasks by the skipper. You must do this, this, this and this. And Jim. And row GB. So we all went off with our plan to go and book our courses. And some of us did it together. I think some of you did your sea survival as a group. But we all did our courses right up to the very end, and then I last minute managed to get a place on the first aid course because that's what you need, a nurse doing first aid. Trust me, you don't need a nurse doing first aid. So once we could talk to each other on the radio badly, we could make sure everybody was safe, we could jump out of the boat and into a raft and not hopefully die in the process. We were ready to go, and we had to do some training. And the skipper then put us to test. Jim made sure that we were safe to launch off. And I don't know, Skipper, do you want to talk about our training a bit?
So I had done GB row the year before and had realised what would work and what wouldn't work. And what works is if you know what you're doing. So I was very keen when I met them, although it was an interview process for me, I actually was kind of making sure I would like them and that I thought they were switched on enough and that they were motivated, and are we going to get round, because this isn't easy. You know, I'd seen it firsthand the year before, and immediately I could see they had the right attitude. They were all very switched on people, and it was definitely going to happen. So I was in, and thankfully they liked me. But then when we got on the water, I mean, there's actually quite a lot of rowing experience here already in the team, so that was a plus. And then it was just a case of going through the drills, dropping your anchor. That's a big one. So we did theory in the classroom, and then we'd go out and we'd practice it. In fact, we did dry drills as well on the land, and then we'd go out and practice it and just keep practicing it. It was really good. Enjoyed it.
So we did our first rows. We went out and we just kept quite local, and we did a bit of trial and error to see how we got on. How could we use the jet boiler, not like burn ourselves? All these kind of good drills that it's best to learn in a harbour and not when you're out at sea when seas are big. So we had lots of things. We had to do many hours out at sea to qualify, as well as all the courses. We also had other planning meetings we had to do, and I'm sure all the other teams that are doing it will also have the same joy. We had weekly meetings where we were talking about sponsorship, constantly talking about how we're going to get the money to do it, where we're going to get the money, how we're going to get food, what food are we going to have, what food do we like, what food do we not like. Now I think if I did it again ever, I would work better on my snack packs.
Yeah.
That's my thought to self.
More chocolate croissants, that's what I'd take. You know the individually wrapped ones? They last for months.
I like a bowl of brandy if I do it again. One nip a day.
But our training didn't necessarily go to plan either. And we had weekends booked in January, and it maybe we should have learnt from this and thought something was coming, and the fact that there was quite a lot of wind last January, and we didn't actually get out a couple of times, but we adapted and overcame, and Skipper taught us all about all the stuff that we needed to know, and we sat a lot of time in the classrooms and did a lot of training, and actually that was good in itself as well. And then somebody who came up with the idea of rowing for a ridiculous amount of time in the boathouse.
That was me. Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
Guess who?
Anybody want to talk about that? Or everyone will forget about that?
Yeah, so I will. Why not? So when we got together initially, we had to try to make a decision as a crew as to why we were doing it. The presentation so far, there are many different reasons why someone might want to do this race, call it a race, and it's really important that the crew, and I know that you guys have done it for this year coming, that the crew get together and decide exactly why they're doing it, and that was one thing that we did with you, Emma, when you started. So I hope I don't get it wrong, but we decided the first thing we wanted to do was to get round safely, to make sure we actually completed it, and then the second thing was to smash the world record. So for us it was more about a performance side rather than anything else, but we made a definite commitment as a crew that we would make sure that we collected the scientific data, because as you've seen from that really good presentation, it's mega important. So it was an honour to collect that data because of the empirical study that's going on, but for us it was about the performance. So when it came to the erg session that I set up, we had decided that we would do 2 hours on, 2 hours off over a 24-hour period, and I thought it'd be a really good idea if we just tried to practice to see what that would look like and row. We did it, didn't we? We did 2 hours on, 2 hours off on the ergs for 12 hours in a room with a carpet, which is always warm. If any of you have trained in a room with a carpet, it's always really warm. So we did that, and you'll see it got a little bit difficult on the last shift, I have to say, and I think it was these three that were the last three that were on. These two were asleep in an office.
We're on our off shift.
And I was on acid or something, I don't know. You'll see in the top left picture there's a mannequin. There's a mannequin that is wearing kind of the storm gear that we would generally wear with a life jacket when we were in difficult conditions. So I took him, Jim, you don't know this, but I took him off the hook and did unspeakable things to him to keep him going. I danced with him and did all sorts, put him back on. So that poor mannequin's had a terrible time. But
Did you name him?
we did name him.
Named him, I'm sure. Mitch, that was it.
And that's what happens when you've been rowing for a long time. You start to go a little bit crazy. So that was the first example that we had of what it would be like with shift rowing. Anyway, back to you.
So the other thing we took advantage of at those times was then go through what the food that we'd had, that some people were bringing food from different expeditions already. So we spent a day as well counting it all. And then deciding what we liked and what we didn't like, what we wanted to try to see what people were going to eat and what people weren't going to eat, more importantly. So that was a fun afternoon. I'm at the top there, I don't look very happy. So then we also had to do some of the research training as well. I think, and we want to talk about research. You picked up research. Let's just you talk about training to do the research.
So I think it was literally the weekend while we were packing up the boat, just before we were heading to London. It was a bit of a last minute dash with Laura and Faye to learn exactly what we needed to do, how to troubleshoot so we could make sure we could collect the scientific data regardless of what happened. Some of the kit wasn't on the boat properly yet, some of it was being tested, so a lot of it was kind of dry drills. This is what we're going to do. We're going to pretend we're going to open the hatch, and then we're going to lift up, I'm going to depressurize, and I'm going to pick up the tweezers and not touch it with your hands. I think it's the little things that you don't think about. So rolling up your sleeves so you're not getting any of the fibres from your clothing on the microplastics filter. And without those training sessions with Laura and Faye and with Kat as well, we wouldn't have really thought about that, I don't think. making sure we're labelling things, making sure you have the right pen to label it, because you couldn't really write in pencil when it was wet, and if you had a normal pen, it'd smudge off. So it's all the small things that we're so thankful for you guys for teaching us before we went. Some of it seems really obvious, but I don't think we'd have really thought of it when there was so much going on when we were just about to set off on this journey.
So you learned to do it while it was nice and calm and flat, and then you could do it when the waves were bigger. So we had our final pre-race prep again. This is, I think, my kitchen in the middle one. I managed to find a quartermaster in the army who had far too many ration packs, and don't tell the MOD I'd got them. Don't put that in the video. So we got some extra food. And then we arrived in London for the big off. We had to go to take the boat up to get it into the water, and with Jim at the hoist, and that was all very exciting. Em had managed to get a hotel accommodation in London for us, which was great, and we then saw the bridge, and then you're like, oh, this shit is real. So we arrived in London. Oh, what happened there? And then we were off. Sandra, you've not spoken yet. What was the feeling like leaving?
Excitement, but nervous. We knew we'd had a briefing before we went, and we knew the conditions were really tough before we even started. So Emma was very good. We had literally a plan A, B, C, D, E, because the idea is every team that's done it wants to get out in that 6 hours and out off the Thames, but we were going to try, but we always knew it was a sort of quite a massive ask. So we just wanted to get out, but we had our plans. The wind was against us, the tide was with us, but we knew everything was against us on that day that we started. So I think we were keen to get going. We got going, and then we just had to sort of plough through as long as we could, get as far as we could before everything started coming against us, and we had to sort of drop anchor and everything. But it was really good to get going. But yeah, we knew we had a massive, like the first 5 days, we knew it was going to be really, really tough just to get out the Thames, which was hard, but it's just the way it is. It's English weather at the end of the day.
I think I wanted to manage their expectations, because there's nothing more demoralising than, yeah, right, we go. You get out and the wind is against you. And, we don't have an engine. We can't just go, oh, it's okay, we'll motor through and get round the corner. When the wind's against you, you either go backwards or you go backwards. That you can drop an anchor, but then that's not going to be very nice, being in big waves. We actually tried that. That was probably the plan B. Plan A was everything was going to be fine. Plan B was let's drop the anchor, wait it out, and then when the tide turns again, we'll have wind against us, but the tide will be with us, so that might help and make some progress. And then you try, and then it gets to the point where, you know what, this wind's just increasing. There is nothing we can do. Let's go and take shelter. Our first aim, as we said, was to get round unsupported and safely. So that's why we ended up spending the first 4 days.
So we are not necessarily advocating holidays at Isle of Sheppey.
Oh no.
It's pretty bleak.
So the tutor came to see us off, but they all had lots of people come to see us off, and they were very noisy, and my mum and dad. Anyway, so the Isle of Sheppey, that was our first holiday destination. It's a little bit industrial at parts. We saw all the way around it. It was a treat. But as we moved on and moved down the coast, we had visitors. The social media, the TV stuff had really worked, and people were sort of motoring up to us and saying hi, and we had big massive ships honking their horns at us.
Not in a bad way.
Not in a bad way, yeah. We had people put drones up and come and take pictures of us, and it was amazing. And some guy from the Isle of Wight in a gilet, but nothing else, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, he was weird. Hi. He said, hi, I'm a man.
So Mark Brownjohn, if you want to stand up, this is his best mate.
Right, okay.
So this guy just sped up in his little rib and had a little medallion and a hairy chest, and we gave him our rubbish and he sped off. It was great.
I think it was, hi, I'm a man. You haven't seen one of me for a while.
Yeah.
So we also met Dougal as well. Yeah, you forget about Dougal. So Dougal, I found Dougal, well, somebody on a Facebook group I was on was saying, I've got this friend's son that's kayaking all the way around the GB coastline, and how do we get his PR up a bit more? And I was like, well, this is what we did. Where is Dougal? And Dougal's here. Oh, Dougal's really close to us. So we kept missing him for a few days, and then Dougal got a message from his side, and Dougal then kayaked up to us and went, hi. I think we gave him, then we saw him, I think, about 4 or 5 times.
Yeah. Claire gave up her jelly beans for Dougal.
Oh, that sounds wrong.
But then the other thing we saw was the wildlife. Now, I was recording for a podcast yesterday, and I told them all about Bob.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
I love Bob.
Yeah.
I think Bob was a kittiwake, not a seagull. I've looked it
What?
up. A kittiwake, not a seagull.
So we had some seagulls that would fly ahead of us, sit in the water, and then watch us go past. Other ones, didn't you get dive bombed by a seagull?
Yeah.
And then other ones would just ignore us. There was the little ones, there was the puffins that were quite cute, and then the other ones that weren't puffins but obviously had less good PR, but they were quite cute as well. But they landed and took off really badly.
Oh yeah, they came in and they just,
Yeah.
crazy things.
So we had the wildlife.
Oh yeah.
I know. And the minke whale, and then we had a dolphin with the mutant hump.
Yeah, deformed dolphin. I was
to
looking
talk
at that.
about that
we do.
dolphin.
That's something I want to.
Yeah. I need to tell you about that. Should we tell you about it now?
Go on. You tell.
That's right. So where were we? Near Scarborough.
Yeah.
Yes.
Near Scarborough, and it was the return trip down, which was horrific the whole way, but I'm sure we'll go on to talk about that. The wind was against us all the way down, and it was kind of at about 5 o'clock in the evening, and quite often the porpoise, dolphins, whatever they were, would actually come and feed at that time. So we always used to see. We got used to it. Actually, it's weird when you see it every day. You start to get used to all these amazing animals popping up. So we're running along, and this, as you can see from the top left picture, I thought it was a mum and a calf swimming next to us. And I went, oh, that's nice.
And I was like, it's deformed.
And then it jumped out of the water, and it was one animal. So I screamed. It's like, holy shit, what is that? It's like some mutant dolphin. And so we started to record it, and we got in touch with you guys, I think.
Yeah,
I think we contacted you.
Yeah.
And contacted you.
Laura.
And we've got some footage of it, as you can see. So this poor beast has got, like it was the main body with a fin, and then it had another body on the side with another fin, all on one animal.
But
It was happy as Larry, it was just bouncing around.
But there was definitely a second dolphin that also had that strange mutation behind its. So there was the fin and then like a big bump. So I don't know whether it was a family genetic thing, but anyway, it's very odd. Never seen anything like it before. And Laura said that they.
That you hadn't seen it either. So things like that, you'll never. Well,
Yeah,
see
I've
again.
still got all the footage.
Yeah.
And the seals were a constant companion with us all the way through, all the way around the country. And I mean, we've got them in the harbour here, and they're great to watch, but they would pop up and then just have a look at us, and we would row on for a bit, and then they would just pop up. We all got a bit mad, I think, coming down the East Coast, or I got a bit mad, and I started naming them all.
I named every single one that went past.
Oh, Sealy Wheelie.
But we had many storms, and we had lots of wind, and we had, but we had this beautiful rainbow that we got, and I think that was round about the time I think that your dad's friends had come and seen us that day, but it had absolutely tipped it down that day, I think, and then we got the beautiful rainbow, so which was lovely, but it was a long way through the rain, to wet pants and wet everything. So the elements were a thing. They absolutely were a thing all the way through. We had, no matter how much you try to stay dry, and foul weather gear will work for a bit, the water gets in everywhere, and then you try to go into the cabin and in a space about that size, get all your wet kit off so that you don't make where you want to sleep wet. So it was a real challenge, and then there's a point you're like, well, I'm wet now, just have to go with it, and then put some clean underwear on and clean top or dry, and then go back, and then put the wet stuff back on and go back out again because everything's wet, and wait for the sun to come out so that you can then hopefully get it all dried off again. But it was a treat. And then there was that's the Sky Bridge in the back. It was quite a nice. That was. Do you want to talk about that or not? No, but we'll move on to that one.
Shall we not?
No.
I feel like I want to talk a little bit about the Skye Bridge. So I live in the Outer Hebrides and my route home is over the Skye Bridge. So every time I go over it now, I have flashbacks to what happened. Oh, so we came through, I don't know if you know that area, but we came through the Kyle Ria, which is actually just a river that goes in and then you turn west and you end up going underneath the bridge. I just come off my shift, I went inside, I'm needing the toilet, so I'm sat on the bucket. Next thing I know, I hear Amy going, rocks! I'm like, oh shit, they need me. So quickly threw that out, came outside, and you were making them row like hell. And I was like, right, okay. And when you steer with your feet, the rudder moves, say, that amount, but when you grab hold of the steering lines and hand steer, you can actually make your rudder do a lot more, so much more. And I just came outside, I was like, right, okay, cool, let's unclip it, go. And these girls, wow. I mean, the amount of energy and power they were putting in to not hit these rocks. The reason that they were in that position was because on the other side of the hill, the wind was being forced up, and then it was just hooning down really, really fast and pushing the boat sideways, and there was nothing you can do about it. It was a localised, very localised wind that, you know, it's not going to be on a forecast or anything. It was just purely circumstantial. And you know what? We missed it as a team. Everybody really pulled together. Maggie, you'd just come off shift, hadn't you? So you were in the back, and that's one of the many times where I was like, Maggie! Because Maggie could then pop out the back, get ready to drop an anchor, because we actually ended up, there's some rocks in the middle before where the pier is, and I thought, you know what, if we can just get behind there, drop an anchor, we can pause and we'll be in the shelter. It's only a little bit of shelter, but that's all we need. And that's exactly what they did. Absolute amazing teamwork, dropped the anchor. It didn't hold particularly well, but it slowed us down enough to get our breath back, to come up with a plan. I had a plan B at the back of my mind, but I didn't tell them that I wanted to go for the plan A. Plan B was to, if you know the Skye Bridge, there's actually a smaller bit to the side that you can go through. I was thinking about tides and depth and am I going to make it, are we going to make it through? If I choose plan B, I'd rather go for plan A. Let's go for plan A. And you know what? They inched their way into wind, into the perfect spot. We dropped the anchor and I was like, oh, thank God. And I think everybody was just relieved.
Well, and that's where everybody in the team learnt. Ian's at the club here at Tudor will shout if you're rowing it long and strong, long and strong.
Yeah.
And that's where the team learnt that. And I'm shouting and counting it out as we were rowing. But we stopped several times for the wind. It wasn't just once. You've not spoke, Emma. Do you want to talk anything about your favourite memory of the wind?
Yeah, as Maggie said, we stopped many times, and I think the thing with the wind is that it just became very demoralising because I think we each had a different app on our phone that we were using for the weather, and not a single one of them were right. Even on the radio, nothing of what everyone said was actually happening in that place that we were in at one time. So it was a big gamble that when we did then stop, when we might go again, because we just didn't know and we just had to play it by ear. I think the two worst times that we stopped were probably at the very beginning at Sheppey and at the very end.
The Devon.
Because I think both times, on the first time we were on a high and it was really demoralising to have to stop, and then at the very end, we were obviously at the very end and it was really tedious. So it was an experience. It meant that you could kind of rest and you could sleep and you can catch up on eating, but at the same time you also knew that you were stand still and you weren't going anywhere.
Yeah, it's a wind. It was a constant companion
I
of
remember
us.
we used to go out and we'd go like, right, get on deck for a certain time, and we'd get ready and then you get like, no, still too high. And it was just like, you'd like go out half an hour and it's like, no, still, and everything that was forecast, it was meant to drop, and no, it hasn't dropped, and you'd be ready to go as you go back and snooze for half an hour and get back up, and then it's the waterproofs at the same time and the foul weather gear and whatever, and it's just
I think we decided the apprentice must have been on for that 40 days.
And I think one of the other difficult things for us, because we wanted to get round as quick as we could, was that, those of you that followed it, did the button watching, that we'd constantly then, you'd end up starting to look way too much at your predicted finish. and you can get really fixed on that. And I think we really had to try to stop ourselves talking about the impact of the wind and the stopping on when we would finish, because that's not what it was about. It was about doing it and doing it well. So personally, I found that quite hard, because you were all the media and all of the apps that we were looking at were telling us when we were going to finish, but actually the weather forecasting was wrong. So it was quite hard to marry all that up, I think, going around.
And of course, what a lot of the transatlantic and the Pacific don't really have in the same way is we had the currents, which was always a treat. This is a picture of Corryvreckan. That's not our picture. I got to say, I took that off the internet. We didn't get that close because I don't think we'd be here. You know, but we went past there and went past in the little whirlpools out the side, and we were flying. It was so fast, 8.5 knots, and
8.5 knots.
it was pretty rapid. And I remember coming up and there was 2 lighthouses, and all of a sudden they were gone. But the currents were pretty impressive.
Just to say, that's the Western Isles, isn't it, Maggie? Where that was?
Yes, off the top of Jura.
Yeah.
So then we got back. Sorry, most of the pictures of me, but it was my presentation. We got back and we got to the finish line, and because we had all the big anticipation of getting back and getting up the Thames, we had to anchor just after the Thames estuary. What are they called? Barrier. The barrier. That's it. Because the tide had just gone against us, so we knew that roughly what time we were going to be coming in the next day. We knew that everybody was going to be there, and then you're rowing in, and you're like, oh, this is quite a lot. There's lots of people shouting, and you're like, well, just the whole insulated where we'd been, and we'd been, you know, you get to the point that your entire world is on that boat. And you forget that actually you've got a life outside the boat, and you know you've got 2 hours to sleep and you've got 2 hours to row, and in that sleeping time you're going to eat and do everything else, and you're then thinking, all of a sudden you're coming on the Thames thinking, wonder what's the dogs doing, or wonder if Mum and Dad will be there, or what's happened in the world, and all of a sudden it starts to come looming quite big on the ink. But the finishing line was amazing, and it you know, there was people there to see us, and people we didn't expect there to see us, and lots of cheering and lots of noise, and it was pretty amazing. It was pretty fabulous.
And thank you for all of you that turned up,
yeah,
either at the start or the finish. It meant so much to us. Thank you very much.
And then obviously we got the world record, which is so ultimately, you know, we did all the way around. We did it unsupported. One point we nearly anchored somewhere, and we were like, no, we can't anchor there because that's been concreted. We have to go there. That's a rock, so that we didn't anchor in the wrong place. You know, we exceeded expectations, and sometimes we went really fast up bits, and other times it was really slow. But it was what it was, and you just had to get on with it and just keep rowing. The dolphins were amazing, the seals were amazing, the team was amazing. My snapbacks weren't big enough. Emma's snapbacks were huge. And then we met Lorraine Kelly. So this is the next morning. We had to be back up and in London. Then there was a train strike and everything else going on. But she's terribly lovely, and we all got our hair and our makeup done.
With Sophie Ellis-Bextor.
Well, she didn't really speak to us. But Dr. what's his face? Dr. Hillary did.
He looked at our hands and prescribed emollients.
And that's the end. That was I think Dougal took that picture. Yeah. So yeah, and we did it for a charity, Can Rehab, which was an amazing charity, and we raised loads of money for them, and we've raised more money since we've come back for them, and they're an amazing charity who does such a lot to support people on their oncology journey, and Sandra is the person that knows most about it, and Anne's here as well.